Good evening, all. Welcome to Progi TV. I'm your host, Skit Goswami. Today we have special guest who will give a glimpse of AI, that is the talk of the tech world today. So we have with us esteemed guest Dr. Samuel, preparing a scientist on artificial intelligence, and Dr. Ratna, a prominent humanist and novelist, and Professor Nivedita, mathematician and apologist. All right, let's get straight into the discussion. Recently, I came across a very interesting and useful book by Professor Lennox, 2084, AI and the Future of Humanity, which says a lot on AI. Tons of centuries have had their own new prediction with George Orwell or Nostradamus, but now we will see the nitty-gritty of science, rather AI on humanity and eternity. Before we start, a big thank you for the three of you. You have taken your time to come here and be with us. So, Dr. Sam, to introduce the scientific developments, especially in AI. So, Dr. Sam, this area of science that is attracting a lot of research and talent in the present, and maybe for the future many years. So, what exactly is AI in normal layman's terms?
Thank you, Skit. The first thing to realize is the word artificial in the phrase artificial intelligence is actually real. Let me explain. It's a system involving high performance computers, database, and algorithm to does some picking and choosing to give us the output which is required. AI can also study the read the huge data and comes out with the conclusions and predictions which the human brain cannot do within the time frame. For example, if you take a medical industry, the data that is generated by millions of patients over the time is being evaluated for patterns and to predict the causes of specific diseases and its symptoms with more accuracy.
So, well, thank you, Dr. Sam. So, Dr. Ratna, how do you look at the impact AI can impose on humanity?
Yeah. Thank you, Shtiak. The invention of system like AI or as it's fantastic, as my friend just explained here. They can achieve results what a human brain cannot do in the given time frame, and yes, it is for the betterment of mankind. And it is also highly important and too valuable. But the point is, the machine is not actually intelligent. It just performs the task what it is programmed to do. And it is the human who is having that intelligence, and he designs it and he makes the system work. And now, or at least let's assume that they have done that for the betterment of humanity. But what went wrong? It is our dependency on the system. We became too dependent on technology and we started losing our own cognitive ability. Let's say that even for basic calculation, you go to a vegetable vendor, and once you buy the fruits or vegetable, you take out your calculator and you start doing the calculation. So we miss out on the point that as human beings, we are naturally blessed with this kind of cognitive ability and this kind of a dependency on the system, which makes us lose our ability. And the point doesn't end here. How far we are going to rely on the system or the system developed by science, be it artificial intelligence or robotics? Are these systems are competent and trustworthy to protect the existence of mankind?
Well, thank you, Dr. Ratna and Dr. Sam, for the meaningful insight. Now, this brings me to the phrase that we hear a lot across the globe: trust the science. Strikes me that in our secular age, trust and faith are still seen as pretty important, and we haven't walked away from them. So, Professor Nivedita, do you think the one who don't trust science and frequently seen as rationally and even morally deficient. Is science becoming the new savior?
Well, I would say that trusting or relying on science is okay, but as long as it is for things that science is actually competent for. But unfortunately, in the last few years, I think the concept of science being the way to truth has become increasingly popular. Now, this is called scientism. Now, I believe that this is completely and entirely false because the statement itself is not a statement of science, but it is a statement that men like you and me have been using because they use science to invent things. Now, let's just go a little deeper into this. Now, people are influenced because of others like late Professor Stephen Hawking, who in one of his books says that philosophy is dead. He says that scientists are the torchbearers of the truth. Now, the irony is that he writes it in a book that is about the philosophy of science, and he says that philosophy is dead. So, Albert Einstein once said that scientists are poor philosophers, and I think that Stephen Hawking is the perfect example of that. Well, I choose to believe Mr. Peter Meadows, who is a Nobel laureate and who says that science has its own limits, but the limits are that it cannot answer the basic questions that a child might have. For example, where do I come from? Or where do I go after I die? Now, while science is important for all of us, I would say that we require philosophy, theology, and also literature to understand and explain both the smaller and the bigger questions of life.
Wow, that's wonderful. So, yes.
Yeah.
Dr.
Sorry to interrupt, but I would like to add what I was quoting earlier, that science has spawned technology and we become addicted to this, and especially with this advanced technologies like artificial intelligence, virtual reality, metaverse, where we kind of lost the real sense of meaning and we also lost our moral compass. So if I would quote Einstein, so he says that we can speak about the ethical foundation of science, but we cannot speak about the scientific foundation of ethics. The science has taught us how to do, but it does not tell us what to do. So this leaves the mankind in a scientific moral vacuum. As humanists, I would challenge that yes, science is marvelous, but it is limited to the question that it can handle.
Well, I agree completely, Dr. Ratnam. And like I said, the science doesn't answer the questions of who am I and where do I come from or what is the purpose of my life. Now, this is where theology steps in, right? And that is the place for theology in our life because it gives us a holistic approach to look at life. Now, science, on the other hand, it looks at things as separate entities. So, in science, technology and human beings don't mix. And of course, one of the good examples of AI was explained by Dr. Sam. But then we also have to think about the moral compass here. Big global corporations are taking our data without our consent and selling them off to third-party agencies, and that is a huge data breach. And again, data breach. And again, the question of ethics comes into place.
Okay. So do you mean we are being spied? Where you were mentioning about our data being circulated with our consent. So yes, Dr. Sam.
Yes, but let me bring to the board one case of usage of AI in China to surveil people. This is astounding that we can use facial recognition by using closed circuit cameras to surveil the people. So these systems has cut down the uncertainty and efforts that are required to trace people after committing a crime per se, and children that go missing in busy areas, they can be easily identified and traced back. So these systems are so useful for the authorities as well as the citizens to live a better life.
Actually, this has a different dimension, Dr. Sam. I don't deny the fact that AI systems are really helping the authorities to reduce their efforts to achieve the so-called ideal society. But the huge dilemma here is, especially in the autocratic state, this can become a common instrument of control, and it is a common question in the people's mind, how far I'm willing to sacrifice my privacy for the sake of security. So this tension remains unsettled among people.
So one thing that comes to my mind when Professor Stam says China, right, is one of the cities called Xinjiang in China. There is a minority religion, and in that area, every 100 meters that you walk, people are stopped, their phones are checked, and government applications are downloaded into their phones, and they're constantly on the watch. And in fact, they also have QR codes that are placed outside their homes to count the number of people who are living inside their homes. So I am just imagining how millions of people who could be held hostage or being even hurt by all this data that artificial intelligence systems are taking without our consent. So I think this calls for cultural degradation or even a destruction of culture in the future.
Exactly, Professor Nidhi. This has another side to it. The same place is coming up with something called as the social credit system. Now, let's say that you are allotted with 300 points and you will be constantly trained, monitored and evaluated. So, for example, if you do any kind of small mistakes, like you forget to put the trash in the bin, so your points will get deducted. Or if you breach or if you break the traffic signal, again you get negative points. And the moment you do something positive, like you pay your debts on time or you do something for Go Green per se, you get a lot of additional points. So the moment you go into negative from your 300 points, the penalty kicks in. That ranges from you can deny a job or a promotion, or they can tell you that you cannot enter a restaurant or you cannot travel to a particular place. And these rules are completely laid out, so they know exactly what it is. This may look like lucrative in the beginning for setting up an ideal society, but then in the long run, the human rights issues creeps in.
Yeah, and it's shocking to see that people welcome this kind of a system with open arms because they get so excited when you tell them that you have 1,000 points, they're automatically getting exempted. But what they don't realize is they are being completely controlled by the society, or rather, because of AI, their lives are completely in control. We don't realize God made people to live in complete freedom and not covering up sin like this. Right? It says in the book of Galatians in the Bible that man was created to live in freedom and not to be shackled by the yokes of slavery. And that is exactly what is happening these days. So if we are speaking like that, then there is one particular country where they use 400 million pro-circuit televisions. That means that there is one camera for every 3 people and they're being constantly watched. Even to imagine something like that is just mind-boggling and alarming, actually.
Very shocking to know, actually. So the irony that comes to my mind is that here we are with our smartphone that have all this capacity at the audio level, and we are using it with much pride. It means that we are ceding our rights to these machines when we don't really know what is being done with all the informations.
Oh, we are actually sleepwalking slowly into all these things.
Well, I would say we're being captured and imprisoned and also being dragged into the yoke of slavery which Christ actually came and to set us free from. And it is quite scary because we are walking towards into a path where there might be no escape in the future from.
Yes, Dr. Sir.
So it feels fantastic for me to have the gadgets, like it responds to me when I sit in my car and I talk to it. When I say that increase the temperature, it does it. I can take a nap as it can takes me to my destination. So I feel blessed with these technological advancements around me, and privileged to get some of them in my hand.
Even I feel excited about using the new technology and gadget. But now I think at what cost? So what I am going to sacrifice for the excitement and ease of life? Anyway, I want to open this question to the entire panel. What are the dangers of artificial intelligence? What you foresee? Yes, Dr. Sir.
Yeah, I don't think this is a very big point of concerns when compared to the value that these AI-enabled systems that adds a value to the mankind. This makes life easy and expands the horizons of living enormously. as we can reach beyond the boundaries to explore various aspects in life.
We are in the era of rapid development where ethical considerations are compromised for the technological advancement. I'm sure some players will agree to me that they can find these developments scary because what if it gets out of control? Imagine the kind of destruction and impact we will have that drones and the automated missiles get into the hands of the antisocial elements. So a lot of lives are at stake here.
Well, I would say it's a huge ethical field, right? So, an individual or a group fires a rocket at the enemy and it creates a large amount of destruction for the enemy. Now, these may be automated missiles or automated machines, and they cannot control themselves. And man can control them right now, but there might be a point of time when man also might lose control over them. What happens then? It leads to serious destruction. So, quoting the Bible in the book of Genesis, what happens is God creates man, and when man becomes out of control, God keeps them out of the Garden of Eden. And we are here creating a lot of things with the science and technology that we know, but who could say if we lose control over these things in the future? I know right now all of this is automated, but we are in the generation where we are trying to create genetically modified and biologically modified human beings and things like that. Who couldn't say what will happen if these things go out of control? I know it sounds like a sci-fi movie right now, like a science fiction movie that we all watch, but I think it's time that we start to believe that things can go wrong in the future and we have to be prepared for it. Well, now that brings me down to two alarming agendas that we have for the 21st century. The first one is to solve the problem of physical death. Basically, you can die if you want to, but if you don't want to die, there might be an option for you in the future to just stay alive forever. It's quite scary even to think of. And the second one is massively enhanced humans. It means re-engineering of humans right from the ground level to create superhumans. Sounds like a superhero movie right now, but this is basically the transhumanic connection with artificial intelligence. Now, if something like this goes out of control and it starts to create chaos and destruction, it's very similar to what is given in the book of Revelation in the Bible, where it says that 4 beasts will be left free in the world to create massive destruction. And this is directly connected to the coming of the Son of God, which is also called the second coming of Christ.
Well, this was a fantabulous discussion actually. So now I thank the panel for you have explained about AI to the common people. So now I think it is the time for me to give the mic to our guest speaker. So thank you.